Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 48 of 2026. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on X at OBKiev. Follow us at the Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / the Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by FanDuel Sports, a proud partner with the NFL. If you'd like to support the Oddsbreakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, become a member, pick any of our winning cappers to get their premium plays before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com. If nothing else, please visit the Oddsbreakers and become a free Picks and Telegram subscriber. We have a great show for you today. Matt Youmans is back to break down some NFL. I believe he finished his work for the VSiN NFL preview, and I'm very excited to be one of the first to pick his brain and find out what he likes for the 2026-2027 season. Before Matt comes on, I just want to let you guys know of some of the big things that we have happening over at theoddsbreakers.com. We are partnered again with Circa Las Vegas, Circa Sports, for Derek Stevens and his amazing Circa contest, $30 million this year in guaranteed prizes. That is massive. And that's why we have two shows this week, because we got to talk to Vegas Matty to tell you how to get in these very prestigious contests. They are the best contests in all the world. That's why there are people that fly to Las Vegas and enter them all over the world. So I'm very excited to be back for contest weekend in the end of August, college football week 0. That's actually got some pretty decent college football games. I know North Carolina TCU starts out early on Saturday. Hopefully I can get down to Stadium Swim for a little bit of that. That would be fun. But there's games all day. I believe USC's playing San Jose State. There's going to be some huge college football games coming up. But we are once again partnered with Circa, and we can't wait to get the ball rolling and myself get into some of these contests, including Survivor. Grandissimo, maybe if I can find a few partners, but I will definitely be in Millions, and I'll definitely be in Survivor once again for the 2026 and 2027 football season. We also have some more surprises coming up here at the Odds Breakers, but as of right now, you can actually get started tracking your picks over at Tally Site, because we're going to start putting all of our NFL plays and college football plays over at Tally Site for tracking legitimacy, as well as just creating groups and comparing yourself to the rest of the handicappers out there. So I highly recommend going to theoddsbreakers.com. You can just get the live odds there if that's all you want, or you can just put your picks in and track them and get some actual numbers to decide how profitable you can be when betting on sports. So it's always good to check that out and start there. At least you know kind of where you stand compared to the rest of the handicappers. But either way, Matt Youmans is going to come on. But before Matt comes on, I'm going to talk some AFC North 2026 preview. Get into the AFC North. I'm hoping next week we can finish the NFL and get right back into college football. And throughout the rest of the summer, we're going to be doing college football and NFL. But without further ado, the AFC North once again proved to be the most predictable division in football after the first few weeks. That is for people that don't watch football. Because, I mean, in our minds as handicappers, the Ravens were supposed to win, But Mike Tomlin and the mediocre Steelers come through again, overachieving. And I don't even know if we should call it overachieving anymore. But maybe we're the ones underachieving that keep predicting others than the Steelers to make the playoffs. Now, of course, the Ravens have won this division and the Steelers have still made the playoffs. But, geez, man, a lot of changes, though, within this organization, as well as the whole division, as we see 3 new head coaches come in. 3 new coaching teams come in of the 4 teams competing. I do not remember this much change within one division the very same year. 3 out of the 4. That's pretty crazy. One thing that won't change all that much is the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers decided to end his drama a bit earlier, which would still be considered late for normal players. The good news is that this division has to play the AFC South, which isn't terrible as of right now, and the NFC South. And I love playing the NFC South, right? Literally the 2 easiest divisions in football. For now, I think the AFC South will get stronger, though, and it might just happen during the year. And then all of a sudden you might see the NFC East or even the AFC East, maybe become one of the weaker divisions in football. But as of right now, I will mention the AFC this year has the extra away game at the NFC for the at-large for the 17th. You have 17 games. Let's see how this all pans out. From the offensive side of the ball, the Ravens were the top team at 13th in EPA per play. Cincinnati 19th, Pittsburgh 18th, Cleveland was 31st. Now, when it comes to defensive rankings, 4th was Cleveland, believe it or not. Cleveland was that high in EPA per play. Baltimore 18th, Pittsburgh 19th, Cincinnati 29th. So that's kind of how those numbers panned out. Odds to win the division, the Ravens minus 115. The Bengals plus 194 right now. That dropped. The Steelers plus 510 and the Browns plus 2,100. I don't know why the Browns are only 2,100. They should be 100 to 1. Number 1 team I have right now is the Baltimore Ravens. Vegas went to 11.5, juice to the under minus 140. 2025 wins was 8. Pythagorean wins was 9.33. Schedule's easy at large versus Dallas on a neutral at the Bills, and then versus the Chargers. Schedule last year was medium hard. Key losses. Coach John Harbaugh. Center, Tyler Linderbaum. Tight end, Isaiah Likely. Edge, Draymond Jones. Tight end, Charlie Kohler. Safety, Alohi Gilman. Running back, Keaton Mitchell. Fullback, Patrick Ricard. Safety, Ardarius Washington. Edge, Kyle Van Noy. Wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. Quarterback, Cooper Rush. Tackle, Joseph Note Boom. Key additions. Coach Jesse Minter. Offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle. Edge, Trey Hendrickson. Guard, John Simpson. Safety, Jalen Hawkins. Defensive tackle, Calais Campbell. Tight end, Durham Smythe. And center, Danny Pinter. Key draft picks, guard, Olivega Ione. They call him Vega. It's hard to say his name. Edge, Zion Young. Wide receiver, Jacoby Lane. Wide receiver, Elijah Surratt. Tight end, Matthew Hibner. And a bunch of dudes. Summary. So who had to go, Lamar or John Harbaugh? So I think that's kind of an easy answer. Same thing happened in Buffalo. Not a tough answer this day and age. I do find it ironic that they are hiring a guy who was taught by both of the Harbaughs as he comes directly from Jim's team in the Chargers before serving as a position coach back about 6 years ago in Baltimore. But I guess there's consistency there, so maybe that's the thought. What isn't consistent is the new offensive system that could be in place. It looks like a Ben Johnson type offense could be inserted in Baltimore, getting the Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle. He is still pretty green though, and could have some rough times in with the Lamars in the world. But there has been some big changes personnel wise, and I just went over those. And I think some of these guys did have to go, but they did keep some of their main guys. They lose some depth at tight end. Isaiah Likely does move on. Some offensive linemen, including their center. So that was another big one. The receiving group is going to be weak unless the draft picks hit, okay? Because DeAndre Hopkins, I guess, was more of a distraction there. But they were weak last year with just Flowers really being the main guy. But, if these draft picks hit, and I do love Elijah Sherratt, then you have a much better chance. So, the defense, the offense is going to be good, and it should go as far as Lamar takes them. And Derrick Henry, man, that guy, he keeps blowing my mind. It doesn't show any age, so I'm not going to predict he's going to regress. On the defensive side of the ball, Jesse Minter is going to take that over. Obviously, in my opinion, I don't think you're going to see a lot of change to the scheme. You still got Roquan Smith there. I assume Ed should be fine as they paid up the nose for Trey Hendrickson, but I feel this team's going to be completely weak against the pass, ranking 22nd in opponent dropback EPA. The linebacking crew looks good. The nose tackle may seem a little weak to me. That's what the Ravens used to have back in the day, big nose tackles. I think age could get to this team a little bit. But the offense has to, come through the clutch and win these playoff games. I think 11.5 is a little high for a first-year coach. So I'm going under the win total because my number is 9.67 wins. I don't think this is the greatest division in football. Under 11.5 wins, minus 140 for 1 star, is the play.
Kip, I reckon you know a lot about cyberspace. You ever come across anything like time travel?
I got Baltimore power rating at 3 points better than the average team. So I think that's solid. 3 points better than the average team is kind of my thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens as of right now, how we're going into the next season. Next, the Cincinnati Bengals. Vegas win total, 10.5, juice to the under, minus 140. 2025 wins was 6. Pythagorean wins was 6.77. Schedule's easy, at large, at the Dolphins, at the Commanders, and versus the Chiefs. Schedule last year was medium. Key losses, edge, Trey Hendrickson, but he didn't play that much anyway. Edge, Joseph Asai, tight end Noah Fant, guard Lucas Patrick, and guard Cordell Volson. Key additions, defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence in the big trade. Edge, Boye Mafe. Safety, Brian Cook. Defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, and safety Kyle Duggar. Key draft picks, edge Cassius Howell, cornerback Takario Davis, and center Connor Liu. Summary. Somehow this Bengals offensive line ranked 7th this year in some metrics. I don't understand how that is, as they only won 6 games, as Burrow played half the season. But, they ranked 5th in rush EPA. So that kind of blows my mind a little bit. But either way, Burrow had to stay standing, and he didn't. And this year he really does. On the offense side of the ball, this team didn't lose any crucial players, but I do think they still have the best wide receiver to quarterback crew, or quarterback to wide receiver, if that's how you want to say it, in the game. I do not expect them to regress, and I expect a lot of points from this team as long as they stay healthy. But Joe has got to get rid of the ball sooner, and he's got to utilize tight end Mike Gesicki to do that, to alleviate the pressure. On the defensive side of the ball, Al Golden does return. I think that that's good. I like Al Golden. I think he just had a tough first year, coming from Notre Dame as a defensive coordinator. He should have a chip on his shoulder. This team did a lot in free agency to fix some of the issues, as they got one of the best nose tackles in Dexter Lawrence with the big first-round trade. And they got solid edge rusher in Super Bowl winning Boye Mafe. I like that. I don't think losing Hendrickson matters at all. But the Bengals did rank 29th in defensive EPA, and if they can just get to average, this team can win the division. I still have a lot of hesitation in Coach Zach Taylor, but sometimes the players are so good, they just need to coach themselves and take over. We've seen that a lot in the past with Peyton Manning. He wasn't really coached. But the most consistent thing for the Bengals is that they always start off weak, which is very weird. They always start off weak. So I have to assume that happens again. So I'm going to kind of keep them low in the power ratings and be prepared to change them quickly as we move along. I'm going to fade early and jump on them after weeks 2 or 3, or I'm just not going to bet on them at all or against them. My number is 9.89 total wins. Bengals to win the AFC plus 1,000 is a decent play right now. I got a little bit better of a bet, but for a quarter unit, that's where I would take it. Their power rating, I'm starting at minus 2 points, worse than the average team until they win a freaking week 1 game. All right? Let's see what happens. Pittsburgh Steelers, Vegas win total, 8.5, juice to the under, minus 120. 2025 wins is 10. Pythagorean wins was 8.12. Schedule, medium, at large, at the Patriots, at the Eagles, and versus the Broncos. Schedule last year, medium. Key losses, coach Mike Tomlin, guard Isaac Suibalo, running back Kenneth Gainwell, cornerback James Pierre, tight end Connor Hayward, safety Miles Killebrew, wide receiver Calvin Austin, tight end Johnny Smith, and defensive tackle Daniel Ikulai. Key additions, coach Mike McCarthy, OC Brian Angelichico. I think it's Angelichio, actually. Defensive coordinator Patrick Graham, wide receiver Michael Pittman, cornerback Jamal Dean, running back Rico Dowdle, defensive tackle Sebastian Joseph, safety Jaquan Brisker, center Brock Hoffman. Key draft picks, tackle Max Ian Acker, wide receiver Jeremy Bernard, quarterback Drew Allar, cornerback Dalen Everett, and a bunch of dudes. Summary. If I had to think of a worse person to hire to coach Aaron Rodgers, it would take me a while to get a better play than Mike McCarthy. Being a Bears fan myself, I very much enjoyed watching the fallout between those two, the blame game happening in Green Bay. But looking back, this team massively overachieved again. 10 games winning. Their Pythag was about 8. This was probably the second best overachieving team, close to the Bears. Or second or third, it was up there. But I do like the offensive coordinator, Brian Angelichio. He could be okay learning from Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. So I kind of like that move a little bit. But the defense coordinator from the Raiders is trash. He's just in the boys club, Patrick Graham. He gets shifted around, thrown around. But he's not going to do anything with this defense, in my opinion. The Michael Pittman trade looks okay, but let's not forget how bad that DK Metcalf trade turned out for them. The better wideout was Calvin Austin, and he's the one that had to go. Steelers slightly below the average defensive team. While good rushing team on offense, they lost Kenneth Gainwell, so I didn't love that, and I thought Kenneth Gainwell was the better back there personally. The bigger issue was they only ranked 26th in passing success rate, so that was all on Rodgers and his connection to DK and the other receivers. The draft wasn't good after the first pick, in my opinion. I have no clue why you would take Drew Allar right there. You just drafted Howard last year and you take Drew Allar. What are you doing? Just because you're in Pennsylvania? Is that it? I mean, how did that last pick in Pennsylvania work out for you guys? Pickett? Anyways, I do like the signings and the defense of Jamal Dean and Jaquan Brisker. The secondary should improve. As long as T.J. Watt keeps the pressure on the quarterback, that should be good. The Steelers could be weak at middle linebacker, though. I'm not a Patrick Queen fan. But all in all, I imagine Mike McCarthy, I don't see him taking him over and improving him all that much. I see, at best, average team. I'm going to give them a power rating of actually -1 to start the season, kind of go from there. New schemes, new everything, so we'll see how quickly they learn it. My win total is 8.56 for now. No play. Number 4, the Cleveland Browns. Vegas win total 5.5, juice to the over, -150. 2025 wins was 5. Pythagorean wins was 5.92. Schedule is easy, at large, at the New York Jets versus the Raiders and at the New York Giants. Schedule last year's medium easy. Key losses: coach Kevin Stefanski, edge Myles Garrett, guard Wyatt Teller, edge Cam Thomas, defensive tackle Shelby Harris, tight end David Njoku, tackle Jack Conklin, guard Joel Benito, tackle Cam Robinson, center Ethan Pochich, tackle Cornelius Lucas, key additions coach Todd Munkin, offensive coordinator Travis Switzer, defensive coordinator Mike Rutenberg, edge Jared Verse, quarterback Deshaun Watson, because he's finally back. God forbid. Guard Zion Johnson, center Elgin Jenkins, linebacker Quincy Williams, guard Tevin Jenkins, safety Daniel Thomas, and defense tackle Kalia Davis. Key draft picks: tackle Spencer Fano, wide receiver Casey Concepcion, wide receiver Denzel Boston, safety Emmanuel McNeil Warren, tackle Austin Barber, center Parker Brailsford, and linebacker Justin Jefferson, quarterback Talon Green. Summary: the Browns do Browns things, kind of like trading the best player in football. Now, do I disagree with that? Not necessarily if you're the Browns, but it's still pathetic, having to do that. I mean, they had to do it. But either way, you're going to see a new team, new coach, and a quarterback that hasn't played more than 19 games since 2021. Hasn't played any games in the last few years. There's just a ton of changes, man. And let's start with the coaches. I did not like Kevin Stefanski, but the media did like him. But the truth is, I don't know if I like Todd Munkin either. The team's got to get younger, and they go with the guy in his early 60s, in Todd Munkin. To be honest, I just have no idea how it's going to go as Travis Switzer comes in from a long tenure at the Ravens as offensive coordinator. But I can't imagine an easy first year. I mean, the quarterback situation, I don't know. I hear they're trying to trade Shedeur now. He could politic his way into starting if Deshaun Watson doesn't play perfect. I do know that the brand new offensive line is going to take a while to gel because they lost everybody on the offensive line. They have some solid running backs and one decent wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy, but it's all about how these draft picks turn out, and this team's going to start out very rough in the beginning of the season. How much can you attribute of the Myles Garrett? A lot. This team somehow ranked 4th in defensive EPA and still was that bad. Still only won 5 games, New defense coordinator Mike Rutenberg comes in from the Falcons, which is something that I'm not too keen on either. The bright spot is just Carson Schwessinger, really, that rookie linebacker that was amazing last year. And we'll see if they can build on that. But for now, this team is minus 7 points under the average team. I think the offense is going to start out very bad. I'm going to take unders early in this probably, but I don't know. That defense could also be bad. Probably a fade team only. In this situation, I'm going to lean under their win total of 5.5 wins. My number is 4.96. So the best bet is just going to be the Ravens under 11.5 wins, as I mentioned earlier in this recording. As of now, it's time to bring on our wonderful guest from VSiN Live, Mr. Matt Youmans. Want to become a better? Want to get on a path to handicapping professionally? Start by tracking every pick with full transparency using the odds breakers partnered with TallySight. These platforms verify your record, grade every play, and showcase long-term performance so you can build real credibility, not just screenshots and hindsight claims. If you're serious about leveling up, proving your edge, and establishing yourself as a professional handicapper, this is where your reputation begins. Just go to theoddsbreakers.com and click on live odds/pick tracking to get started. Join us in your handicapping journey. Now I'm very excited to welcome back an NFL expert as well as the editor and host of the Vegas Sports and Information Network, and Mr. Matt Youmans from VSiN.com. You can follow Matt on X at Matt Youmans247. Matt, welcome to summer, my friend. Sounds to me like you might be escaping pretty soon.
You know what's interesting about Vegas is that the first 20 years I lived here, you would never see lightning, you'd never see rain before July 4th. Usually it was the week after July 4th where you get those pop-up thunderstorms. You know how that happens in Arizona and Nevada. in the summer.
Microbursts.
Last night, after midnight, I was driving back from Summerlin towards the Strip, and there's just a magnificent lightning display and a little bit of rain. I was like, man, weather patterns have really changed in the last 4 or 5 years. You're seeing stuff that you did not see in the previous 20 years. And as I sit here and talk with you right now, it's a gloomy day for the first time in a long time. We've had nothing but warm days, hot days, blue skies, and today we got cloudy, and it looks like it's going to rain. So, no, but next week I'm headed to California. I'm actually going to golf on Catalina Island. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but Catalina's got a golf course up in the hills. I was going to play out there next week, go to the Dodgers game, and then head to Hawaii for a while, and then back sometime after July 4th. But it feels like football season is almost here. You know, in the past, Kiev, you got in the month of June sometimes doing sports talk, TV or radio is torture, right? You have so many slow nights. You don't know what you're going to talk about. That has not been the case this summer. It's actually been great because I thought the NBA conference finals and the NBA finals were outstanding. Vegas Golden Knights were in the Stanley Cup finals, so that gave us a lot to talk about here. And then for those who care about World Cup soccer, and you have to care about it somewhat, this is the biggest sports betting event in history, World Cup soccer. If you're talking about worldwide betting handle, there's been nothing bigger than this World Cup. And most people I know are winning at it. So, it's been the month of June's been really good, actually. NBA draft last night was a good one. And we're almost in the month of July. I always say when you turn the calendar to July, you feel like you're at football season because training camps are going to open and, you've made it through the summer. So, and by the way, at VSIN, we just put out our NFL betting guide, which is our preview magazine. It's 110 pages. I've been working on that the last couple of weeks. And, that shows you football season's right here, too. The magazines are starting to hit the bookstores. I picked up a couple of magazines, college football and NFL preview magazines on Monday. So we're almost there.
We are, man. But, yeah, wow, that is so true. It's exciting right now. The soccer has been fantastic. College baseball, I watched some of that. Oklahoma and North Carolina, that was wonderful. It's just you feel like golf's a little bit on the back burner because of what's going on right now. The NBA draft, it was strange to see it last night, but it went through like the markets had the last couple of weeks. I know you had a nice bet on DeBonsa. Congratulations on that big hit that you hit. We probably talked about Peterson and his problems that he had back in February and March right on this show, but you capitalized, so great work on that.
Yeah, that draft last night was, I thought, one of the more interesting ones in the last 15 or 20 years. The first 8 picks were all college freshmen. You only had 2 foreign players go in the first round. I think that's what's turned a lot of people off about the NBA draft in the last decade plus or so, is that you had a lot of foreign players on there in the top 10 or top 15 in the lottery that people didn't know about, right? I even go back to Zachary Ricochet, who was the number 1 pick, and everybody's like, who's he? Never seen him play. Well, you've seen all these guys play in college who were drafted last night, and I thought it was a really deep draft. I was not joking. We did a 4-hour draft betting show last night on VSIN, and I said there's at least 25 players I really, really like in this NBA draft. And it's going to be good for the association, and it was good for last night. And I know down where you are in Arizona, that was a very popular 30th pick made by the Phoenix Suns. They trade up to the last spot in the first round, take Koa Pete from Arizona. Mm-hmm. He's really kind of a Arizona high school legend. And, had a really strong season in Tucson last year. And I thought he should have stayed in college. I really did. Thought he should have stayed one more year. But it was good to see him go in the last pick of the first round last night.
Yeah, absolutely. And sure, Suns fans need something to smile about. I mean, he's a fun kid, still a little young, but look at how good Arizona was last year with him. So agreed on that one. Yeah, man. But now, it's going to hit July, and it's just going to be some World Cup. I didn't even know the World Cup went until July 19th. I looked that up. I'm like, that's actually kind of cool. I'm really glad. I'm really glad that is. But normally in July, especially after the 4th, there's a really slow part. It's just baseball a little bit, right? And if you're
British Open, don't forget about the British Open. We got that.
Yeah, the Open Championship, right? Yeah. I think that's mid-July, but we'll talk about that too. But no, that's cool. But you're right. We are kind of turning our page the NFL season. You know, I love to get ahead of the NFL, at least the best I can. Since the draft, I've been studying every single division. I got 2 divisions left, but got a gist on everything I like. But one thing I learned is that the NFL is trying to show that they're accountable. I don't even know what this means, but they said that they're going to have some sort of a reserve unit for the officials. A, for one, if somebody gets injured, but B, I guess for being demoted. I'm like, seriously, I'm not sure how much I believe what's going to happen here, and if it's really going to put pressure on them. And I scratch my head and wonder why they just don't do other things, Matt.
I don't know. NFL officiating is a cluster, you know what, and it has been for a while. And I'm not going to be naive and say, I think the NFL is going to fix the officiating problem because it's been a fiasco, and I don't know how you change it. One thing I love about this baseball season is the ABS system and the ball strikes, and how they've kind of implemented the tennis replay system, right, where you can see the ball coming in. You can't argue. It's either a strike or a ball. It's right there on the video screen, and you can't argue with the home plate umpire about it. That's one thing I kind of miss is the heated arguments with the home plate umpires. But still, you're getting the calls right. And I think baseball with the pitch clock, like I said, take the pitch clock off the screen. I don't need to see the countdown of the pitch clock on the screen when you're watching a baseball game.
You don't.
But, it has moved the game along a little bit faster. ABS system's positive. It's been a pretty enjoyable baseball season here for the first half, and betting's gone pretty well. So I like that. But as far as the NFL, how do you fix the officiating fiasco that we've seen for so long? I don't know, and I'm not going to act like I think the NFL's got the solution here. I think we're always going to be aggravated by NFL officiating, and really it's gotten worse because you can't touch quarterbacks anymore. Yeah. You can't touch receivers, right? Yeah. It's got to be so difficult to be a defensive coordinator, and with all the penalties and the way the rules are geared for the offenses, it's so difficult to make stops in that league, and you can't touch quarterbacks or receivers.
Yeah,
it's a big deal. I like to watch. Sometimes there are a couple different sites on Twitter where they show old NFL highlight videos. I don't know if you occasionally follow those or not, but I'll send you a couple of them if you do. I love to watch the old NFL highlight videos from the 70s and 80s, and they used to glorify the big hits, when a receiver would almost get decapitated or a quarterback would get body slammed. That stuff was glorified. Now you can't even touch those guys.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's one thing we can never handicap about the NFL is the officiating. It's always going to aggravate you, but that's just part of it.
Yeah, and then they go low and take out a knee, which is actually worse for your career because you miss a year and a half. It's just there's a lot of problems, but I mean, it feels like lipstick on a pig kind of thing. It's like the truth is like we at home see what was wrong in 5 seconds or what was right, because I've seen really good calls by and every person's different, and every person, especially as an official, you are inclined to maybe err on a certain side of things, whether it's maybe you like the away team or the home team. There's numbers on all that, and I use a lot of that in my handicapping. But I think if we can see it in 5 seconds, this day and age with technology, there's no reason why somebody in New York watching the game that could be somewhat not a part of a crew itself, but assigned to a game, can't just make a quick change. And that's what I'm hoping to get to. We used to call that eye in the sky when the XFL came out for a year or whatever it was. And I actually really liked it. And until that happens, it's just not going to be perfect, because they also tried reviewing pass interference with the same guys that screwed it up are saying that they're wrong. That was a big mistake. But let's just hope that this reserve unit, comes in and actually does put some pressure on them to try to get it right. But in my opinion, they made it too hard on the officiating as it is. And so it would just be better to have that fourth eye and just to make it fast. I don't want a slow game.
It's a replay, the replay assist, right? When they call down from the booth and say, try to move the game on, the replay assist, hey, that was a first down, mark it off. I think that's better. I like the replay assist, but
expand
it. It's one thing that I think is problematic for the NFL too. Every year the competition committee gets together and they add like 4 new rules. If let's say you're trying to get into the NFL and you're from Europe or Australia and you're watching these games and there's a 55-yard touchdown pass and it's called back. There's a flag on the play. It's called back. Why didn't that count? Right? A lot of people watching it. Why didn't that count? Well, there was an illegal man downfield. His foot was across the line, and that's why it didn't count. If you think back to that Rams-Seahawks game last year, I was so aggravated about that game. And, I had the Rams 30-1 Super Bowl future, and the Rams losing that game in Seattle in December turned out to be huge. And they had a touchdown called back on an illegal man downfield, an eligible man down. It was a lineman. And when you looked at the replay, it was a bad call. It was right there on the borderline, but it shouldn't have been called. So the Rams had a touchdown wiped off the board. And then that nonsense with the 2-point conversion.
Yes.
Remember when the Seahawks, the ball's bouncing on the ground, the refs blow it dead, and they give the Seahawks the 2-point conversion.
A lateral's not a fumble or something. It's like, how is that? It's like if it's dropped, it's a fumble. A lateral was treated as a fumble, except in that situation. That was weird. But the EPA per penalty is something that was massive on that guy being downfield, and that's my problem. It's like a makeup call 5 yards on a kickoff is not a real makeup call. It doesn't change anything. But like the EPA, the value of that penalty was game-changing, massive, right? And that's where the game needs to be fixed. It's like, where are these plays being called? And that's why I've always been the critic about how they treated, Mahomes and other things. But it's got to be fixed. So thanks for bringing that up. And I looked it up a million times over about the fumble going forward, and I didn't get any straight answer, man, in the NFL book of rules, because I really did go to AI and looked at the rule book, and nothing was clear that shouldn't have been. That should have been allowed forward anyway. So it was just really
my biggest problem with that, even if you said you found in the rule book that by the letter of the law, that should have counted, whatever. The problem with that is on the field, the officials blew the play dead. The ball's bouncing on the turf, right? Mm-hmm. And then somehow the Seahawks end up with a 2-point conversion, and that helps them win the game.
Yeah,
that's total nonsense. That's part about the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't want to get aggravated. It's June. Let's talk about it.
Let's throw it into these divisions then, man. So we got the NFC North here with surprise Chicago Bears, winner of that division last year. I think it was more about the Packers choking, and I can admit that as a Bears fan anyways. But, it is a division where now you have the 4th place team in the Lions, really the favorite. It's kind of funny. Like, we always see, at least in 1 or 2 divisions, the 4th place team winning it, right? Because of the schedule change and the fact that they got a higher draft pick. But what's interesting about this year, and our friends over at FanDuel, they have the 4th place team favored. It's not often where the books catch up really quick, but here we are. The Lions are plus 145, the Packers plus 260, the Bears plus 320 at FanDuel, and Vikings at plus 500. What do you think about this division?
First of all, you got to shop around because DraftKings got Lions plus 180, and Circa's got, I think, the same number right now. So I've actually already bet this. I bet the Lions to win the NFC North at plus 180.
That's a good number.
Top candidate for a team to go from first to worst in the division is definitely Detroit. Finished 9-8 last season, 2-4 in the NFC North. But Detroit have more defensive injuries than any other team in the NFL. So hopefully they get a little bit better injury luck this season. I think the Bears are definitely due for some regression, right? You talk about maybe the luckiest team in the league last season. You got to start that debate with the Bears. They're good, but they were extremely lucky. And in the NFL, there's a very fine line between winning and losing, and between being an 11-6 team and maybe an 8-9 team or something like that. The Bears' luck factor was off the charts last season. The Packers, a bit of a mystery team to me, because I really thought Matt LaFleur and the Packers made a mess of the end of last season. I think they lost their final 5 games. And you go into this season with Micah Parsons' status up in the air. Looks like he might miss the first half of the season. Vikings quarterback controversy is cloudy at best. I like a lot of things about the Vikings, but you're not going to win in this league unless you got quarterbacks who can get it done. I'm not sure the Vikings do. So you look at the Lions, and you start with their last place schedule. If you look at average projected DVOA of opponents, Lions' schedule ranks 27th in the NFL. It's definitely one of the softest schedules in the league. Includes the Giants, Jets, Cardinals, Saints, and Titans. Jared Goff was good last season. I'm not a big fan, but he was good. 68% of his passes completed, 4,500 plus yards, 34 touchdowns, 8 picks. Those are really good numbers. Not that long ago, Goff and the Lions had a 17-point halftime lead in the NFC Championship game on the road against San Francisco. This team's plenty talented. I think they've patched up their offensive line, which was a bit of a problem last year. It looks like the line's going to be a little bit stronger. Running game should be solid. And bottom line is, when you look at the schedules for all 4 teams in the division, Lions have the softest one.
By far.
Plus 180, that's one of my favorite plays on a division winner right now.
Don't mind it. From a Pythagorean win total perspective, it finished backwards. The Lions were the highest Pythag at 9.96 wins. The Vikings had, believe it or not, the second at 9.37 wins. The Packers 9.31, and the Bears were the biggest overachievers in the league at 8.04 wins. So great points, and I emulate them. I bet the Vikings to make the playoffs at plus 166. I still think Flores is there, and he's a great defense coordinator. If anyone's going to fix Kyler Murray, it's his time. It's Kevin O'Connell, and I think he's got a lot to prove now. He's got to come in and show that he's competent, and maybe O'Connell can stop him from his, pouty ways, But I think there's one team that's not making the playoffs only out of this division. I think it gets 3 playoff teams in, and maybe you get that in the West again too. But I agree with you 100%. Let's go to the NFC South, where you have the Panthers there that were the representative from this division here. And I'll quick run through the odds to win this division here. And I just got to find them. Tampa Bay Bucks plus 200, Saints plus 260, Panthers plus 300, and Falcons plus 320. What do you think?
I think you get a much better number on the Falcons at DraftKings plus 425. And the Falcons are going to be my pick to win this division. I have not bet this yet, but I'm going to play it. This is one, I always say, you don't know everything about the NFL right now in June. We just put out our preview magazine, and I had some good futures in that last year. I also came up with a few more really good futures bets, like division winners, playoff bets, things like that in August. After you read camp reports every day, you watch the preseason games, you got to think critically about these teams. Handicapping is a fluid situation. You're constantly evaluating teams, so I don't have all the answers right now, obviously. None of us do, but I like the Falcons in this division, and I'm going to go with the longest shot. Kevin Stefanski, big coaching upgrade. Got to get the quarterback situation figured out if Michael Penix is going to be the guy. I really don't like Tua. I hope Penix steps up and wins the job and stays healthy. But in Bijan Robinson, you have an elite running back now. I like the talent on both sides of the ball. I felt like the coaching staff was holding this team back the last couple of years. And you look around the division. I don't love the Bucs, who lost Mike Evans. I don't love the Saints, even though you can find some positives in New Orleans. And I'm just not buying into Bryce Young and the Panthers quite yet, even though I think they're obviously much improved. I'm going to take the longest shot here and go with the Falcons at a little bit better than 4-1.
I bet the Falcons at 4.5 to 1 back on June 1st at DraftKings to win the NFC South. This is so I'm with you. I actually took their season win total over 6.5 at minus 115. Right now it's 6.5 at minus 115 at DraftKings, and I also took them at 7.5 at plus 125 early in April, and I could not believe it went down. The Falcons are the better upgrade from a coach, from Raheem Morris now to Kevin Stefanski. And this is a division you don't bet someone just to make the playoffs because they're only getting one playoff team in most likely, right? And so you bet the division. You take the better number here. And I am not believing all this Saints hype. As a matter of fact, the Saints went on that run of games at the end. Those were all a bunch of tomato cans, man. Those were, one team didn't have a quarterback. It was like Cleveland and the Jets. It was like, seriously, you're going to give them credit for that? And I'm not a Tyler Shook guy. And I don't like the big loss that Tampa Bay had with Evans. I think Mike Evans was just maybe the most underrated receiver over the last 5 years. And the Carolina Panthers is just so bipolar. It's time for them to regress. You got Bijan Robinson, you got Drake London, you got Kyle Pitts, you got two competent quarterbacks, now both lefties with Tua there. And even if Tua plays, I'm okay with that if Penix ain't quite ready. You have a star defense, too, that just has more talent than they have shown based upon the coaching. So I'm going on the coaching upgrade with you, Matt. I completely agree. Let's move to the NFC East, where the Eagles recently won the Super Bowl, right? And then, obviously, last year that changed. But the Eagles are still the favorites at FanDuel, plus 135, Cowboys plus 200, Commanders plus 450, and the Giants plus 550. What do you think?
All right, so this is one I have not bet yet, but I'm leaning toward, believe it or not, the Cowboys. And right around plus 235, plus 250, if you look around, because the Eagles are going to be just a little bit better than even money favorites in this division everywhere you look. And I've been big on the Eagles the last 2 or 3 years, but for the first time, I think this team's a little bit shaky. There's no question that Jalen Hurts is taking a step or two back, and maybe A.J. Brown was part of it, and maybe Brown is addition by subtraction, and that could help a little bit. This Eagles team's plenty talented. There's no question about it, but saw some cracks in the foundation last season. With the coach and the quarterback and a lot of things going on here. Like you said, you don't want to pick the favorite to win all these divisions. And the NFC East typically has had turnover, right? Rarely do you see a repeat division winner in the NFC East. It's happened twice in the last, 20 years, and both times it's been the Eagles. Cowboys, I think, could be a team on the rise. And I obviously like the coaching situation a little bit better now with Brian Schottenheimer in and Big Mike McCarthy long gone. Not crazy about the George Pickens situation, but if Pickens can get his act together and not be insubordinate and, play for a bigger contract, and Dallas could have a dynamic offense, really could have a dynamic offense. And I think the biggest thing here with the Cowboys is their defense should be dramatically improved. I love the Caleb Downs pick. I can't believe Sean Harbaugh and the Giants let Caleb Downs get by and slip to the Cowboys in the draft. I think they're going to regret that for a long time. He's going to be the quarterback of that defense. Cowboys made improvements on the defensive line. They hired a new young defensive coordinator who I think is going to be a really bright DC, a rising star. I'm starting to buy into the Cowboys here as a surprise winner in this division. But this is, to me, an extremely difficult division to handicap because you can find a lot of positives with the Washington Commanders, too, with Jaden Daniels coming back from injury. I think the Giants are going to be a lot better, and I actually really like the talent on the Giants too deep. I think their roster is a lot more talented, and with Harbaugh stepping in, some would say he's overrated, but I think he's going to change the culture of the Giants, and their arrow is going to be pointing up there. So this division, I think, is going to be improved top to bottom. The Eagles might not be that much better. The Eagles might be the one team that's not that much better this season. So, like I said, I have not bet this yet, but I'm leaning toward the Cowboys as a playoff team and possible division winner.
I don't disagree with that. I think the Cowboys, anytime you lose a guy like Matt Lieberflus, that's an upgrade immediately just by 30th worst defense in the league, man. Of course. Now, the Micah Parsons stuff was stupid, but we're past that now. We have to look past that because it's different now. I thought the Cowboys did great in the draft. I do love Caleb Downs, too. But I bet the Giants plus 320 to make the playoffs. I did that on March 1st this year. And a little sprinkle on them to win the division at plus 700, but over 7.5 wins with the Giants. I got plus 105 on April 1st on that. I believe that's back to just normal minus 110 now. But I do think the Giants take a huge step forward. I hope Scadaboo is healthy. I like Jackson Dart. I like their camaraderie, how they're boys now, him and Scadaboo. Malik Neighbors, I want him back. I want him healthy. If not, they picked up like Darnell Mooney and a couple other guys. It's not like it's in that dire straits. I thought the Dexter Lawrence trade was a win-win for both the Bengals and the Giants. I thought that worked out really well, especially how they could pick up those guys in the draft, those big Ohio State boys and everything. And I think it's the schedule is going to get them there too, because now they have the fourth place schedule, and that should benefit them pretty well. And that's how the NFL is. It flips. Am I confident they're going to win the division? Not as much as a good playoff bet at plus 320. And we have to remember that the NFC's got the extra home game, not the AFC this year too, Matt. So I like the fact that the NFC's got the extra home game. But I'm totally with you. It would not shock me if the Eagles don't make the playoffs, if the Cowboys win the division. The Commanders, I'm still iffy on because I don't like their coach, Dan Quinn. But I'm with you, man. I don't mind the Cowboys bet at all. I think it's a good one. Move on to the NFC West, where it was definitely the best division last year in football. I'm just going to tell you right off the hand, I still have the Seahawks and the Rams 1 and 2 in my power ratings.
Yeah. You got the Seahawks 1, Rams 2?
I flipped them just because they're so close last year, but I could see after 2 weeks me putting the Seahawks back up top. But right now, I had to move the Rams up because what they did with their secondary and what they did with Myles Garrett.
Sure. I had the Rams number 1 for most of last season, and I still got the Rams number 1. And I maintain that the Rams got screwed in that game in Seattle in December, and that they probably should have won the Super Bowl. But what? I can't take that ticket up to the window and argue that and cash it. So I was bitter for a while about the Seahawks winning it because I felt like that should have been the Rams last season. But they played 2 thrillers in Seattle, and you got to give the Seahawks credit. They got some officiating help in the game in December, but they got the big defensive stop they needed to win the game in the playoffs. And the winner of that game was going to win the Super Bowl. And the Seahawks, the Rams, like you said, definitely upgraded at the corner positions. The Myles Garrett addition speaks for itself. I would think Aaron Donald's probably going to come out of retirement. At least, he probably doesn't want to go to training camp, but Donald's going to want to show up and play. With or without Aaron Donald, this defensive front seven's plenty strong. I did like Jared Verse quite a bit. So I think the Browns were smart to demand that Jared Verse be included in that trade for Myles Garrett, because I think he could develop into an elite pass rusher in the NFL in the next couple of years. But Rams are going for it right now. That's their mentality, and I love it. It's kind of deja vu to a few years ago, right, when the Super Bowl was at SoFi in L.A. The Rams had made a big deal with Detroit for Matthew Stafford, and then Stafford ends up leading the Rams to the Super Bowl in L.A. Now the Rams make a big deal for Myles Garrett, and they've got a good chance of playing the Super Bowl in their home stadium again. But you know what? Last year at this time when I was talking with you, I had the Rams 30-1 in my pocket. Now they're plus 550. So I mean, what are you going to do with it? I can't bet the Rams. I haven't found a way. I want to bet the Rams right now, and I didn't bet them when they were at 7-1. I just don't like betting single digits on teams win the Super Bowl over the summer. And you never know what injuries might pop up in the preseason too, right? Let's say you bet the Bengals last year and Joe Burrow goes down. You got no chance. And last year at this time too, remember Matthew Stafford had those back issues in camp in August. And a lot of people were concerned that Stafford wasn't going to be able to play to start the season. And I remember at VSiN, we had a bunch of hosts who were running out and betting against the Rams, betting their win total under. Betting Rams not to make the playoffs, and then Stafford ends up, he's fine, and he plays great, and he's an MVP. It's funny how that worked out.
Yeah.
Seahawks lose Kenneth Walker, but I think, they drafted Jadarian Price from Notre Dame, and he's going to step in and be a really solid running back, I think, for the Seahawks. If you look at their defensive depth chart, no superstars, but they're solid, really rock solid at every position. And I love Mike McDonald as coach. I loved it when he was hired. He's had success in Seattle a lot sooner than most of us thought he would by winning a Super Bowl in his second year. Sam Darnold, I'm still not buying into the total redemption story. And I'll tell you why. Yes, he won the Super Bowl, but that was more about the cast around him, the coach and the cast around him. Don't forget that Sam Darnold had 20 turnovers last year in the regular season, right? 20 turnovers. So he's still got some things to prove. I still like the Rams. I think the 49ers have some defensive question marks. I like a lot of things about the Niners offense, and they're going to be right there. The truth is, Kiev, when you power rate the NFL right now, a lot of people are going to have 3 of the top 5 teams in the NFL out of the NFC West. It's going to be Rams, Seahawks, and the 49ers are like a fringe top 5 team right now. I might have the 49ers 5th or 6th, I think, in my power rating. So I don't love the Niners, but I like them. And then at the bottom, you have your Arizona Cardinals. It's tough to take a step up in the division, climb up the ladder when you're in the toughest division in the NFL. And the Cardinals probably will go 0-6 in this division for the second year in a row. I'll talk about a win total on the Cardinals later in your show here. But, I don't see a division bet to be made. These are short prices, 3 of the top teams in the league, and I still favor the Rams.
Yeah, I don't like 320 is not enough for me for San Francisco. It's got to be better than that because, if every team was equal, it'd be plus 300, and I don't think the Niners are equal to them yet. Yeah. You got these Rams, and they did fix things, and obviously Jared Verse was a good thing for Cleveland, but it's funny to see this team not even have a number 1 draft pick, and when they finally get one in Jared Verse, they trade it. And then I don't know why the hell you go with Simpson, though. I'm still completely disappointed with them drafting freaking a quarterback from Alabama that should have not even been in the first round, in my opinion. But if he was going to go in the first round, you trade down for anything, freaking anything, man. Nobody's picking him, and it made it even more ridiculous after you picked up Myles Garrett because you're like, now what are you going to do, But we can complain about that. I think there was just internal buddiness with Simpson and some of his, maybe father and maybe some of his coaches there with, with the GM over there. But, either way, the Rams are my favorite team, and I don't think I had too many bets in this division myself. I like how you say your Arizona Cardinals because of proximity, my friend. I am close to the Arizona Cardinals. They're not my Arizona. I'm not admitting to owning any of them. I am unfortunately a Bears fan, but they're at least were decent this year. I bet here's the bet I did make. I bet the Niners over 9.5 wins, and I think I laid a little juice on that because I just think that these 3 teams are in the top 6, top 7 just by themselves, Matt. So that's my thoughts. AFC North. Mm-hmm. So the AFC North, we have a very strange situation here because you literally have 3 new coaching staffs out of the 4 teams. And I don't remember seeing 3 new coaching staffs out of one division like this. It's funny to see that. But you still have the Ravens at minus 115 on FanDuel Sports. Bengals plus 185 now. It was plus 195. Steelers plus 550 and the Browns plus 220 or 2,200 to win the division. So what are your thoughts on the AFC North?
This is another bet I like, and I played this last week. Bengals plus 200, 2-1 odds. I was out there, and like you said, you still get close to that. And Joe Burrow injury could wreck your future again. Hopefully he's got some good injury luck this season. Played 8 games last year. But if you rewind to 2024, he led the league in passing yards, close to 5,000, 43 touchdowns. Bengals ranked 6th in scoring, 27.8 points a game. The defense has been a problem. And the Bengals, I think, have done a couple of things that maybe that defense could be a little bit improved. Dexter Lawrence, Pro Bowl defensive tackle, is now on that line. I do like the personnel on the defensive side a little bit better, but, it's going to come down to a lot of times the Bengals just trying to outscore teams again. And they should have one of the most explosive offenses in the league when you look at all the personnel Burrow's got to work with, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Chase Brown, and you could go on and on. They got so many weapons. I thought this quote from Joe Burrow was relevant, and he said this during minicamp about a week or week and a half ago. Quote, "You go back and watch what I said before the 2019 season at LSU. I feel very similarly about this team. I feel like there's so much greatness we'll be able to achieve." And if you think about that 2019 LSU team, that was an explosive offense. Burrow had 60 TD passes, 6 picks that year. That offense was unstoppable. I don't always buy into the hype. I rarely buy into the hype, but I'm going to buy it here on the Bengals. And part of the reason is I'm selling the Steelers. And I'm selling, obviously, the Browns in this division. So to me, it looks like a 2-horse race. And Lamar Jackson has taken a bit of a step back. You know, a new coaching staff. The defense is not quite as strong in Baltimore. And I think it could be the Bengals' year. So in a 2-horse race, I'm going to go with the Bengals here at 2-1 odds. And again, Pittsburgh, I like a lot of things about the Steelers. I don't like the coach, and I really don't like the quarterback that much. And those are two big. Those are two big things not to like.
How about them married to each other now again?
This I don't know. And you know what? When they were in Green Bay, they didn't like each other at all at the end. Rodgers hated McCarthy. And now they're acting like best friends. Oh, we're reunited. It's total nonsense. Big Steelers are probably going to have their first losing season in 2 decades. And, Rodgers' numbers last season were actually pretty good. But it was all short throws, didn't take many chances, and he cannot get outside the pocket and make plays. He's so immobile. He's not the Aaron Rodgers you used to remember. Now he's just doing it with his high football IQ. He knows how to read the defenses, where the ball's got to go, but he can't get out and he can't make big plays. So I think that's going to be a problem again for the Steelers. I think they got a lower ceiling. Bengals got a higher ceiling. That's the team I'm going to go with in the AFC North.
I don't disagree at all. My first bet was we'll get to that. Actually, I have a future on the Bengals. But, I took the Ravens under 11.5 wins, and I laid a little juice on that. And I think they're going to really feel the John Harbaugh loss. And I know Jesse Minter was with Harbaugh and then was with the brother, Jim Harbaugh, for a while. But it's still a different dude. And they brought in offensive coordinator Declan Doyle. And, he could turn out. But, it's just he's got to convince Lamar that his system's going to be better. And then Lamar's going to, be Lamar. I think there's going to be some pushback there. I think there's going to be growing pains. The receiving group is pretty weak. Now, you hope that Elijah Surratt plays like he did at Indiana, and Jacoby Lane from USC, but these are draft picks here. These guys are young. Trey Hendrickson, he got hurt again last year, and you knew he wasn't going to want to play for the Bengals. It's just I feel like he's been out of football a little bit, and so I'm not sure if that really improves your edge. And I think they're going to miss Harbaugh a little bit more than people think. They lost edge Kyle Van Noy, Ardarius Washington at safety, Gilman at safety. They really turned over a lot of pay. And that Isaiah Likely, that was a big turnover. Center Tyler Linderbaum. There's just a lot of key guys that are gone. So I'm going under on the Ravens, and I have a better future bet for when we get to that segment. AFC South. What do you say about the AFC South, man? That was the Colts were in control until they weren't. Daniel Jones injury choked. Then obviously it left it open for the Jaguars. But I got to tell you, the Jaguars, they almost got the number 1 seed there. They won a lot of games. I had the Jaguars as I think my 5th or 6th best team, to be honest with you. I don't know if I was wrong last year, but what do you think about the AFC South?
I'm not going to talk much about this division because this is the one I've done the least work on, the one that interests me the least. Texans obviously deserve to be the favorites, and right around that plus 110 range. Defense is elite. I've never bought into C.J. Stroud. I'm obviously not going to bet the Texans at that number. If you're going to bet this division, I think you have to take the Jaguars at about plus 250. Yeah, that's the only bet I can make here. We don't know what the Colts quarterback situation is going to quite look like. I'm not really buying into the Colts. Titans still got a long way to go, even though I do like the improvements with their coaching staff. Brian Dable as OC is great. I think the Titans could be an improved team, but the only bet I see you could make here would be the Jaguars at plus 250.
Yeah, I bet them over 8.5 wins minus 125. Okay. So, I mean, their Pythag, even though they won 13 games, their Pythagorean win total was still like 11. And you're going to give me 8.5? I mean, this is a division that's going to get tight. I think the Colts could be right there. I think that the Texans will be right there. I did like the Texans' moves on the offensive line. They finally tried to fix their offensive line. They only lost a few guys on defense, but, it's also, C.J. Stroud. I think this division's really up for grabs in the top 3, so I didn't make a division bet. But I agree with you. If I had to make a division bet, it would sure be the Jaguars at plus 245, plus 250. So 100% agreement. Now, the AFC East, where you have a lot of drama in that division in the offseason. And then, there's obviously the Bills, who me and you at this time last year, Matt, I was looking at my notes. At least I thought the perfect bet was plus 275, the Bills to be the number 1 overall seed because they get the Chiefs at home and they had like the Ravens at home. Well, the Bills just decided to give that away, and I lost that bet. Barely got over the 11.5 win total, but then here's the Patriots that I kind of faded and lost, and they won 14 games. What do you think about this division?
It's interesting you talked about this time last year because I didn't come around on the Patriots until watching the preseason, and the more you analyze the schedule, I thought, well, this division is also a 2-horse race, and the Patriots got the weakest schedule, and I could see the Patriots pulling this thing off. And we have a VSiN NFL futures draft where we have 10 hosts, and we have like a snake draft, and I took the Patriots to win the division in that draft. I bet the Patriots right around 5-1 odds, plus 450, I think, something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Last August, and I don't think anybody liked that pick, which is fine. You don't want to be on the popular plays that everybody approves of in the NFL all the time.
Right.
But the play on the Patriots last year had a lot to do with Vrabel and how I thought he was going to improve that defense. Drake May, who's a quarterback I like, maturing, and it had a lot to do with the schedule. It was a soft schedule, and the Patriots took advantage of that. They swept the Bills and went 14-3. They finished 2 games up in the division on the Bills. Well, it's going to be a 2-horse race again, only this time Patriots draw a bit tougher schedule. And they have the Super Bowl loser hangover to deal with. And I know some people will scoff at that, but I'm a believer in the Super Bowl loser hangover. Look, it hits you in different ways. Injuries, losing close games, whatever it may be. And in this case, it might be Mike Vrabel's off-field issues, right? And it's already been a really tumultuous offseason for the Patriots. And Vrabel's he's got some things he's going to have to deal with here. And the last 2 years, think about the Niners, who lost the Super Bowl in Vegas. They completely fell apart the next season. The Chiefs lost the Super Bowl the next year, completely fell apart last season. So the Super Bowl loser hangover can be a real thing. And I think it's going to hit the Patriots. Tougher schedule, Vrabel's issues. A lot of people are going to be fired up about A.J. Brown. I'm not really a big fan of him. I don't like the diva wide receivers, and I know he's going to be on his best behavior right away, but not sure I love that move. Josh Allen turned 30 this summer. He's getting to that point where it's the now or never phase of his career. Not quite there yet, but the window's closing on the Bills. They got to get it done. I actually kind of like the coaching switch from Sean McDermott to Joe Brady. He's a creative offensive mind. Hopefully he's better at game management than Sean McDermott was. Buffalo's defense is a bit of a concern, but I think this is a year for Allen and the Bills to get revenge on the Patriots. Bills, I think this is a fair price. Bills minus 125 to win this division. And again, there's no way the Jets and the Dolphins are going to win it. It's the Bills and the Patriots head to head.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the Bills. I think I just bet them. I didn't even tell anybody. I just did this like a day or two ago. I did take the Bills minus 125 to win the division. I just think now that, like you said, schedule's huge, and that's why you're betting the Lions right now, and that's a great way to look at it. I mean, kind of similar situation. The Lions are stacked though, and the Patriots last year had the easiest schedule I can ever remember. And imagine going your AFC Championship game and play the team without a quarterback. It's just too perfect for them. Now, they weren't the best team, but the Patriots might even get a little bit better. But I just think the Bills now with the new coaching staff, with it's Brady, I believe, right? Sean Brady.
Brady? Yeah.
Yeah. That's their coach now, and I like it. I like the move. I think that Josh Allen needed somebody new. I didn't hate Sean McDermott, and I think he got blamed for a lot of things. But let's face it, sometimes you just need a change, and somebody's got to help this kid get over the hump. And I think they get the coaching staff now over there to do that. And also Jimmy Leonard, the defensive coordinator, former Badger. Hell yeah, man. I'll sign me up for that. That guy's a defensive genius. I love Jimmy Leonard, and I think he's going to be perfect for this Bills team. And so that's where I'm at. AFC West. Now, this is one I haven't touched yet, and you got your Chargers there. They're lurking. You got your Denver Broncos that were overachieved some, according to Pythag. They're the second biggest overachieving team. And then you got the Chiefs that lost Mahomes, yet they weren't really winning when Mahomes wasn't injured. If you remember that, they were already regressing. Then he got injured. But I don't think the Raiders are going to be anything. What do you think about the West?
So I wrote up the NFC West and AFC West for the VSiN guide. So I've done tons of research on all these teams, obviously, but I like the Chiefs a lot to bounce back here. And I think it's kind of like buy low, sell high, basic principles. Sure. And I'm going to buy low here on the Chiefs, plus 180 to win the AFC West. At this time last year, they were minus 120, minus 125. So again, plus 180 after one bad year. Super Bowl, right? They've been around the Super Bowl favorites for the last 5-6 years in single-digit odds. Now you got 15 to 1 odds on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I'll take it. And I think Mahomes, I said this when he blew out his knee. I said, he'll be fine. This guy's Superman. He's going to be back week 1. Now, his mobility is not going to be fully back, but he'll be back on the field. Yeah. And I think he's going to be fine. A lot of times in the NFL, and I hope this is not a popular play, I don't want a lot of people to like the Chiefs. But in the NFL, I think one of the best ways to handicap it is to bet the opposite of what we've seen most recently, right? In other words, look to bet on teams that were bad last week or last season. Look to bet against teams that were great last week or last season. And obviously the Chiefs were a disaster last season. That's what sticks in a lot of people's minds. Mahomes injured, Chiefs go down. They couldn't win a close game. They were 6-11. Well, he's ahead of schedule in his rehab. I think KC, who's got a really sharp GM in Brett Veach, he and Andy Reid have made a lot of positive moves here in the offseason. I thought they had a really good free agency period, a really strong draft. They did exactly what I thought they needed to do in the draft, and they got Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP at running back. They had the 25th ranked rushing offense last year. Defense was fine last year. And you got Spags, who might still be the best defensive coordinator in the league. His defense ranked 6th in scoring last year at 19 points a game, even with the offense's problems. By the way, the Chiefs were 12-0 in one-score games 2 years ago, 1-9 in those games last year, right? Andy Reid's first 12 years in KC made the playoffs 11 times. I think that's an outlier of what happened last season. I'm going to say when a heavyweight champ gets knocked down, he doesn't stay down. Last year at this time, I was on the Broncos to win this division. I had all those plays documented in our magazine, on our futures draft. I got mocked. I got laughed at in our VSiN draft when I picked the Broncos to win the AFC West last year. But a lot of that had to do with the schedule, too. The Broncos had a schedule that really set up well for them last year. And you talk about close game luck, Broncos had a bunch of it last year. They won some really ugly games. So, again, I'm going to take a team that was 120 to win this division last year and is now plus 180. They won the division 9 years in a row before last season. And I'm going to bet on the Chiefs here.
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, it's the perfect bounce back situation for the Chiefs, getting a third place schedule coming on in, which is, that's fantastic when you can get a third place schedule like that. It's nice to see, them not having to play, the big names in the division, or the conference, the big names in the conference. So that's huge. Now they still have their own division to deal with, but according to their season win total schedule, they're 10th easiest, according to Warren Sharp's numbers. I always like to look at that on the schedule based upon opponents' season win totals. So that's a good one to look at. Another good one to look at is net rest days. Usually the Chiefs are punished, and now they're pretty close to average on their net rest days as well. So no disagreement with me on that one. You did mention.
By the way, you bring that up quickly. I want to mention, since you brought up net rest days, the Chargers got the worst of the net rest.
Yes.
If you look at Warren Sharp's chart, Chargers the minus 24,
minus 24. It's like they probably play like 3 or 4 teams off the bye week.
Right. Chargers really got a poor schedule draw, and I still do like the Chargers over 9.5 wins. They were 11-6 in each of Jim Harbaugh's first 2 years. But this is also the toughest schedule he's had to deal with. I think this could be Harbaugh's best team with the Chargers. I like the Mike McDaniel hire, an offensive coordinator. I think the Chargers look really promising. But they are going to have the toughest schedule they've had to deal with since Harbaugh has been there. And that's why, again, I give the Chiefs a bit of an edge here. And also, I think the Broncos are going to take a step back. You have not read much about this summer, but Bo Nix has had a couple surgeries on that ankle. And, we're talking a lot about Mahomes and his rehab. Bo Nix is way behind schedule on his rehab. And I thought the Broncos, in terms of close game luck last season, were right up there with the Bears in terms of luckiest teams in the NFL. And even though I was on the Broncos last season, I knew I was lucky at the time when they were winning some of those ugly games. You remember that game against the Raiders, I think, on Thursday night when they won 10-7? Remember the game against the Jets in Europe? I believe when they won 13-9. There were some really ugly wins on that Broncos schedule a year ago. I could see that team taking a step back.
I don't disagree at all. I do worry about the Chargers because I have so much respect for Jim Harbaugh, but that just net rest days takes it away. And yes, right. It's Andy Reid. It's like 2 great coaches. It's not like he's going against freaking Raheem Morris or anybody, right? So it's a situation where you got another great coach there. I can see the Chargers kind of making the playoffs again, and I can see the Chiefs winning this division. I'm definitely not betting against it right now, and that's what I'm going to research. So you teased us with a season win total here. I thought I mentioned. I heard you mention. Good old Arizona Cardinals, where you and I nailed their 3rd pick of the draft, by the way. So we were texting a little bit about that. So I was really happy to get Love back when he was double digits to 1, and you got a good play on him too. But I don't think that Jeremiah Love is going to fix that offensive line. So what do you think about the Cardinals' season win total? $30 million in guaranteed prizes. Cash in this football season in Las Vegas with 3 Circa Sports contest entries starting at $1,000, all with no rake. Circa Million, 18 weeks of point spread action, 128 ways to win. Circa Survivor, pick one winner each week, last one standing wins. And Circa Grandissimo with $100,000 entry in over $4 million in guaranteed prizes. Enter in Nevada, play from anywhere. $30 million guaranteed. Visit circasports.com for details.
Okay, so at Circa right now, you can play under 4.5 at minus 145, and you're going to see a much higher price out there at DraftKings, or if you look at FanDuel, other sites, they're closer to minus 180, minus 190. And I don't really want to lay that price, but I will lay 145 here, under 4.5 wins. And I'll tell you why. And a lot of times when you're talking win totals in the NFL, you definitely feel sharper if you're talking about playing over lower win totals and you're playing under the highest win totals. But I got to play under this one. And, just like you wanted to play under the Browns last year, right? The Browns, you looked at the quarterbacks last year, you said, how the hell are the Browns going to win 6 games? It's not going to happen. You got to play the Browns under. I don't know how the Cardinals are going to win 5 games here. And Mike LaFleur could be an upgraded coach, but, this is the least desired top job in the NFL right now because it's the toughest division in the NFL. Arizona's probably going to go 0-6 in this division for the 2nd straight year. Cardinals concluded last season on a 9-game losing streak to finish 3-14. During that 9-game losing streak, the defense allowed 35.2 points a game, ranked last in the league. Cardinals and the Browns, arguably the worst quarterback depth charts in the league. I do love Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame, but what's he going to do? with that quarterback play behind a mediocre offensive line. Probably not much. We saw it with the situation with the Raiders last year. You can draft a running back in the top 10, but if there's offensive lines not in front of them, not much is going to happen there.
Right.
So look at the schedule. Here's the key to this. And you could say, well, the Cardinals could, surprise a few times. They could win 5. Who are the Cardinals going to beat in the first 13 games in their schedule? Check it out.
At the Chargers, Seattle.
It's almost unfair, Kib. It's almost unfair that a team this bad draws a schedule this brutal. There's one game in the first 13 that you could circle and say, well, the Cardinals could win that one. Otherwise, you got to get to December until they play the Jets and the Raiders. So I think the price is right here. I think they're likely to stay under 4.5. Go ahead, look at that schedule. In the first 13
I do not see what you're seeing at the game they can win. I don't see it, man. I'm going to quick even share my screen and show everybody what I'm looking at here. At the Chargers, Seattle, at San Fran, at New York, who's supposed to be way better, Detroit at home, that's a loss, at LA Rams, versus Denver when Knicks will be back by then, at the Cowboys, at Seattle, versus the Rams, at the Chiefs, versus the Commanders must be what you're talking about, and that is at the very end of it, and that is still very iffy because you got the Commanders and the Eagles there. This is a team that's going to be decimated by then, and I don't even think you can blame Mike LaFleur for this schedule, but Jesus, man, you're right. How do they even get to 4 wins here? They really have to beat the Raiders, the Jets, the Commanders, and 2 more?
They're going to have to win all those games. They would have to win all those games, and of course, those teams you just talked about have the Cardinals circled as a game they expect to win, right? So I would say that getting to 5-12 with that schedule seems unrealistic. That's why hey, look, if the Cardinals beat me on this, I can live with it. I'm going to play under 4.5 at -145.
Oh, yeah, and I'll unfortunately have to tell my neighbor that I'm going to do the same, so that is a pretty rough one. What about any other win totals, or you want to talk about any futures that you've made, like conference, Super Bowl, anything like that?
I haven't bet many win totals yet. I do like the Chargers over 9.5, but again, the schedule concerns me about that one. I got a lot of respect for this Chargers team. I think they should be on the rise, but again, they got screwed by the schedule card.
Yeah.
The futures, I'll just kind of summarize what you and I talked about here as we wrap it up. I bet the Chiefs to win the AFC West +180. The Bills to win the AFC East -125. Bengals to win the North at 2-1. Lions to win the NFC North at +180. And I got the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl at 15-1. Now, I'm obviously going to have more, but that's all I've got right now. And last year, some of the best futures I had were ones I added in August. So, like you said, it's a fluid situation. I thought 15-1 on the Chiefs is worth grabbing for now. Right now, my projection for the Super Bowl is Chiefs against the Rams. How about you? Do you have a Super Bowl pick yet?
No, I do not have a Super Bowl pick just yet. Hopefully the next time I talk to you, I will. But in the meantime, could you let our listeners know where they can get that VSiN guide that you were a big part of writing about the AFC West and the NFC West?
Yeah, I think it's actually valuable and it's cheap to get your hands on it. VSIN.com. So vsin.com. You can go to vsin.com/subscribe, whatever. Just get a copy of the digital magazine. You can print it out. 110 pages. And the thing I like about it, it's written more towards a betting perspective than the other magazines. You can grab, and I read the other magazines too, but I obviously want to read something that's written by handicappers with betting in mind. And we got, plenty of futures plays, recommendations, best bets in that guide as well. And I put some winners in there last year and hopefully got some winners in there this year. But it's a good way over the summer when things get slow to sit out by the pool and read up on the NFL and sharpen your handicapping skills.
Absolutely. Make sure you get a hold of that VSiN football preview for the NFL. They have all kinds of great information over at VSiN, so make sure you check that out and check out Matt, obviously, at VSiN. He's on plenty of shows throughout the week. Matt, thanks again. We'll be tweeting.
Hey, always great to see you, and catch up with you later in the summer.
All right. Well, that was Matt Youmans, his early thoughts on the NFL. Some really good stuff right there. Just quick recap on the AFC North. As you know, our best bet is just the Ravens. Juice to the under under 11.5. I laid minus 140, but I'm okay with that. I think that's a smart bet. As you know, I'd like the Bengals to, I bet them a while ago to win the AFC at 13-1. I kind of still like them at 10-1 as well for a Kobe unit. My friends, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions for us, feel free to tweet us at The Oddsbreakers. Email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Go get some winners.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.